All right, welcome in everybody. Welcome in, welcome in, welcome in. Happy Tuesday. Can you believe it's Tuesday already? Guys, today I got a special one for you. So I would encourage you, get those cameras on. If you're not muted already, go ahead and go on mute. We will do a live Q&A at the end here. But guys, we have a special one today. And so I personally have been working with Lauren for man, it's been a while now, been a few years, but really in a lot higher capacity within the last year. And so I'm really excited to share Lauren with you guys. I'll give you a little context. When Lauren and I first came together, I literally was like, I don't want to tell anybody about how amazing Lauren is because then everyone's going to know Lauren and everyone's going to go to Lauren and I'm not going to have anything. And so, long story short, guys, I have overcome that scarcity mindset and gotten an abundance mindset. So I get to share the amazing person that Lauren is with you guys today. If you guys don't know me, my name's Wyatt. I'm the host of the Seven Figure Mastermind. I have several real estate businesses, including a flipping and hard money company. And yeah, I've done some things. Now I educate people on this. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce you Lauren Ziminsky, a family woman from LA that has been an incredible person. So Lauren, please teach us, how does private money lending work? And we'll go from there. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. I'm actually going to share my screen just to talk through it because I think it's the most easiest for you all to see it visually. But yes, to echo what Wyatt said, I've been working with him for actually about 4 years now, and in different capacities. But this lending capacity has really scaled up in the more recent years. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen.
Awesome. And yes, this is how Lauren has built a six-figure passive investment line over this last year.
Yes, well, and that portion's with Wyatt alone. So that's why I was really excited when he asked me to come and share the story because, well, I'll just get right into it because it's an exciting one for me. So just a little bit of background on me, one slide here, but I'm a real estate investor. I'm an active real estate investor. I'm an author. I speak. I also coach. I'm a private money lender, and as we said, I've lent $4.5 million to Wyatt in 2025 alone. So I'm a very active lender, and I'm an investor in multifamily and single family homes. I'm a general partner, limited partner in several syndications, and I've got over $76 million in syndications in that. I also raised capital. I raised about $25 million in capital to buy real estate. So again, very active in all sorts of sectors of the real estate space. And I live in Los Angeles with my husband and two daughters, and they're there.
So on top of all that, you get to have a family, and your daughter is also a movie star.
Yeah, well, yeah, well, that's another webinar. But one of the things when I started with Wyatt was I had a very clear goal. Speaking of my daughters, I wanted to pay for their private school with my lending proceeds. That's what I wanted. I said, what can I do to just deploy capital and know that no matter what, their education is taken care of, the education that I want them to have. So that was my very clear goal in starting. But let's go back, about 4 years now. I met Wyatt through a mutual partner, Alex Tam, who's a member of the same real estate group we're a part of. I actually invested as a limited partner in one of Wyatt's syndications, one of Wyatt and Alex's syndications. And that's a picture of it right there. We invested in it, and then I actually physically met Wyatt very soon after at a real estate conference. So anytime you are wondering if these real estate conferences are worth your time, they absolutely are. I can honestly tell you, and Wyatt and I met for, I don't know, 20 minutes at that conference. Had he and I not met physically face to face, and I met his wife at that event, I would not be sitting here today. And again, that was 20 minutes of time 4 years ago. So I'm always telling people, go to these events. You never know who you're going to meet. You never know what will come of it. It truly, I never would have thought we would have the business relationship we have now when I met him 4 years ago.
Yeah, there's a lot of truth in that. I remember everybody, and there's a lot of hype in the conference too. It's like, oh, like you're doing this, you got to meet with this. And so, yeah, I just remember a lot of people saying like how awesome Lauren is, and like, Wyatt, you got to meet Lauren. Wyatt, you got to meet Lauren. And I'm so glad that we did.
Yeah. Yeah, it was,
Yeah.
and at that point after meeting, we just followed each other on social media and as you normally do. And Wyatt does a phenomenal job of sharing on social media. I do a lot on my social media as well. and a lot of my contacts come through it as well. So he does a lot on social media. I kept watching him on social media. His videos would pop up and say, I'm flipping, I'm flipping. Here's me at the closing table. And I would just see these pop up in my feed. And that just, as we all know with social media, even if you're not physically talking to someone, just seeing them regularly makes you feel like you know them, makes you feel like you're keeping in touch. And it really was that me consistently seeing him and seeing, oh, look, he got married. Oh, look, well, he was already married when I met him, but looking, he has a baby, his wife is pregnant. Those things always make you feel like you're keeping in touch with the person. So I continuously saw him posting about his fix and flips online. And at that point is when I reached out to him and I said, hey, I've got this capacity and I want to do some private money lending. I'm I'm not interested in being overly risky with this, but I want to dip my toe in and I want to just try. So I reached out to Wyatt. I said, what do you have? Do you have a fix and flip that maybe I could fund for you? And he said, sure. So that's how it started. And he gave me some ideas on how I could invest in his flips. I started with, okay, let's start one loan at a time. Let me take the first one. So one of the earlier ones was a single family home fix and flip in Omaha. If you probably all know, but Wyatt's home area, his home market is Omaha. He has a very robust home buying business in Omaha. I know he knows the area. And so right there, the risk went down for me. I said, I know that Wyatt has been doing this a long time. One, two, lives and breathes this neighborhood, this city, so he knows what he's investing in. I always find it a little scary when people are investing out of state in markets they don't really spend any time in because there's so many nuances to every neighborhood. And being in Los Angeles, I can speak to that very clearly. So anyway, so hopping in, he gave me this. He said, what if we start dip our toe in? This is a property I got under contract. It's a 3-bed, 2-bath, 1,200 square feet, and I got it under contract for $97,000. And so he said, how about the loan amount's 100,000? You cover my closing costs and the purchase price. I'll cover my rehab, and let's just start there. And I said, okay, I'm willing to risk it with him. And although at this point, at this particular loan, I had already done a couple of with him, but that's really how my mindset worked in the onset. And another thing I want to say before I hop into the case studies or into this further is one of the things that's been most attractive to me about working with Wyatt and his market is that he's in a very linear market. Omaha doesn't have these huge swings that, for example, we have in Los Angeles, where if you buy a flip in LA, 6 months later, you're operating in a totally different market. And a 5% dip in a Los Angeles flip is going to cost you at least $100,000 plus. Whereas a 5% dip in Omaha on a $97,000 purchase price is going to cost you $5,000. So it makes it inherently less risky, in my opinion, to invest on the lending side in a market like Omaha, as opposed to one of these more cyclical markets like Los Angeles, New York, and things like that. So that's why I like Omaha. A little side note there. But anyways, I wrote the loan March 26, 2025, $100,000 with an agreement that he would pay me 10% annualized interest and pay me monthly on the first of every month.
Yeah, I love it. And just to chime in here too. So during this time, we did have several other rehabs going on, and I had a credit line that I was using, right? And so I'm using bank money at 7.5%. So why would I work with Lauren at 10%? Well, I started to get more and more flips. And I started to realize it's like, okay, I actually need more funds for these flips than I had on my credit line. And that was when Lauren actually reached out to me at the exact right time. And then it was like, okay, well, let's offer Lauren a double-digit return to be able to start to scale this a little bit. I already had the multiple crews ready to go. And so the timing just worked out perfect as this happened. And then this is the start of a beautiful beginning. So yeah, looks like Lauren is sharing the photos of how it turned out here. Yeah.
Yes. So once he finished the flip, he posted. These are the after photos that he posted. He listed it, and obviously it sold. So we closed the loan March 26, 2025. He was paid me $833 per month in interest because that's 10% annualized interest on my loan. And then the loan for me closed June 2nd when he sold the property. So as you can see there, he bought it for $97,000, flipped it and sold it for $225. Now, I'm sure all of you are sitting here thinking, I want to be Wyatt. I don't want to be Lauren. For me, I'm fully aware of, the difference in terms of returns for someone like Wyatt and versus someone like me. The difference is I had nothing to do with it. I wrote a check, went on with my daily life. I have businesses that I run. I have real estate, my own real estate operation that I run. And so for me, this is just another source of income. And so Wyatt completely deserves the level of return that he gets for running the entire operation. So for me as the lender, these were my returns. And over that 2 month period or 3 month period, I earned my interest, which is significantly higher than I would be getting in a CD or a high yield savings account. And my money was liquid again within a few months. And that for me was important. I want a loan, but I also want it back every few months because I'm an active real estate investor. I'm constantly buying as well.
Yeah, I love that. And sometimes people are like, okay, well, that's a one-off, right? But it's like people don't understand. I've been doing direct to seller marketing to find these deals. And so these deals don't just show up, right? Like I spend between 25 to 30 grand a month in marketing to get in front of motivated sellers and help them through these processes. So in this case, this seller was moving out of state, needed some work to be done, and needed a quick close. And so, because of those factors, we were able to come in at a price that made sense for us, but could solve those problems for him. And that was why we got it at such a good discount. And Lauren also helped facilitate that because when she had the funds ready, we could close. It was a 2 week close. We made everything happen. He was off to, I think, the East Coast, and then we began our rehab. So that is how I'm finding these opportunities and finding them consistently. Right now, I have 15 flips going on at this very moment.
Yeah, and I tell everybody that as Wyatt's lender, I can fully tell you that he is exactly what he says he is. And so I if you're going to want to build a home buying business and be active in this way, he is the person to learn from. I haven't seen anything quite like this, from anyone else. So absolutely, if you're looking to build this business actively, he's the perfect person.
Well, thank you. Thanks. All right, so we did that one, and that one worked out well. Now, there's a little different model that Lauren has started to pivot to, as so many people have started to reach out to Lauren and be like, "Hey, I want to do this, but I don't know who to trust. I don't know how to do it." And Lauren, there is some paperwork stuff that comes with it too, right? It is pretty dang passive, but if you don't know what you're doing, right, there's actually like there could be an email chain with like 30 emails if it's not done right with an attorney and going back and forth. And so, can you speak to maybe some of that and how you've kind of fine-tuned this and then the model that you've maybe switched to in these next flips?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Everything, all the paperwork, the promissory note, deed of trust, or mortgage, all of it is done through the attorney, and that's very important. I'm going to get into it in a second how to protect yourself because one of the most attractive things about these deals is that it is you're taking a first position lien on these properties. So the collateral is a real asset. And that's one of the things that's so attractive when you're looking at this as opposed to other sorts of lending. There's business lending, there's lots of lending that you can do. But I love the fact that it is done in a way that the collateral is very strong. That said, it needs to be recorded properly. All of it should be done through a real estate attorney. And you need title insurance. And again, I'll get into this in a subsequent slide, but doing it properly is very important. Unfortunately, I have seen some people come to me and say, "Oh, I never recorded the lien," and now they're not paying me, and all of these, and they have no protections. They don't have a lien on the property. So, because they didn't, or the title wasn't clear and we closed anyways. And now we can't sell it because there's clouds on the title. So it's really important, again, to just do all of this through an attorney, a real estate attorney. And we'll get into that in a moment. But one of the reasons why I wanted to show this case study, and I apologize that square footage is incorrect. It was 1226 square feet. But the reason why I want to show this is because, as Wyatt said, he has 15 loans going, or excuse me, 15 flips going right now. I don't have the capacity to fund all of those on my own. And at the same time, I have a lot of investors who invest with me on other projects who came to me and said, "What are you doing with Wyatt? I want to lend too." So putting those two together is I don't have enough funds to fund 15 flips at a time for someone like Wyatt. And then putting together the fact that I had all these investors coming to me saying they also want to invest and lend to Wyatt. I put together a bit of a different model. I still fund whenever I can. I fund Wyatt's deals on my own. If I need to bring in someone else, or if I'm strategically bringing in someone else, that's when I do. So for this particular flip, which closed January 15th, 2026, 3 bedroom, 2 bath, 1,200 square feet, 1310 Jones Drive. The loan amount's $270,000. At the time, I didn't have the capacity. When Wyatt came to me and said, I have a $270,000 loan for you to fund, I didn't have the full capacity to lend on that. I had about half. So what did I do? In this particular situation, I lent 140,000. I have a co-lender who came in at 80 and another co-lender who came in at 50. And together we took a first position lien on the property. We don't have an entity together. Each of our entities took the percentage shown as a lien on the property. And we did that in January, and I spoke to Wyatt yesterday. It's likely going to sell in April. But the reason why I'm showing this as a co-lending opportunity is a number of people who are interested in lending this way just kind of want to dip their toe in. And I get a lot of people who come to me wanting just to maybe write a smaller check for their first one. And that's why this co-lending opportunity is available. And I'll have my contact information at the end here if you want to pursue a co-lending opportunity, absolutely feel free to reach out to me. And as you can see, why it's constantly got them coming. So, and I fund them as frequently as I can.
Yeah, and Lauren makes it easy too, guys. Like Lauren's been through this process so much that like if you're interested in lending, but you maybe don't have all the funds to just do a deal yourself, then like Lauren has the process down to a T. And so she will handle everything and make it very smooth for you because she's been through it a million times. I've had lending other, I do have other lending relationships, and sometimes and oftentimes the first time through it, there's always a hiccup. And then we're dealing with motivated sellers on our end, right? And so it's my value is that we make this process as smooth as possible. And it is really frustrating for me if a lending relationship makes it so we don't close on the closing day because these motivated sellers often need the funds and are counting on those funds. And so that's why working with Lauren has been great because she number one does what she says she will do. Two, she's an absolute rock star, and three, she's got the process down pat. So yeah, if you guys are interested, I would reach out to Lauren. She's going to put her Calendly in the chat here at the end. So.
So suffice it to say, 4.5 million loaned in 2025. I currently have about 1.5 million out in outstanding loans to Wyatt right now. I've closed 22 loans. Excuse me, not closed. I've total loans written have been 22 loans. I think I've closed 16 of them or so at this point. But it's scaled tremendously and honestly got me thinking about more ways that we could work together.
It's been a fun ride. It's just the
Oh yeah,
beginning.
I was just say it's just starting. So risk and challenges with lending. If you're ever thinking about lending, or if you take funds from a lender, these are the challenges and risks everyone's constantly thinking about. Borrow or default, bad or inexperienced operators. That I actually spoke to someone before starting with Wyatt. I spoke to someone who does a lot of private money lending. I said, "What's their biggest concern?" And their biggest concern is an inexperienced operator because the only time they lost money was lending to a new fix and flipper. So that's always something, especially if you're brand new and you don't really have a track record yet, you're going to be dealing with. And that's, as a lender, that's my biggest concern. I have had people tell me, well, if you go, 10%, why it's paying you 10%, you could get 12% with XYZ, and you could get 15% with, that guy over there. And I said, yeah, but I sleep well at night. And for me, that matters a lot. And so I'm not really interested in a couple of extra points if it turns into any more stress for me. It's just not interesting to me at all. So that's one of the reasons why I continue to lend to Wyatt, because I'm not concerned about that.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And I will say too, I am also a lender, so I do lending to fix and flippers in my market as well as fix and flipping, and I do charge a higher premium to people in my market, but I have the capacity. Like I've never taken over a loan. I don't plan on it. But if we do, we're in a really good position with crews ready to go. And not most people are not in that case. And so most people actually just want this to be a passive thing and never to take something over. I can get a little bit more aggressive because we're in the market ready to go in a good position if we were to take something over. And so that's why I do lend and I charge more. But most people aren't in that position. And so you got to kind of know where you're at and what you want to do. If you've got crews, if you're active, if you know the market well, then maybe you get a little bit more aggressive. But if you want this to be a passive thing, then you got to make sure you're working with somebody who has the capacity to make it a passive thing.
Right. And for me being in Los Angeles, it would cost me significantly more to go out and try to take over a property, uh, in time, energy, all of it, if I lend to someone. So it's certainly not worth a premium there. So you got to just develop the relationship with the borrower in order to have make sure everyone's, feeling good. And that comes with a track record. And had I not invested with Wyatt 4 years ago and received quarterly communication exactly as he had said he would, and had that 4 years of knowing that Wyatt is doing what he said he was going to do, in terms of the regular communication. So that built that trust as well, which is why I was able to scale with him much faster than I probably would have with anyone else. But the paperwork, or excuse me, let's go to collateral and valuation risk. There's always, I now fund Wyatt's purchase price, and sometimes I'll fund his rehab as well. But that all comes from one, he gets great deals. So I know in underwriting, I still underwrite every deal he sends to me. And there's room there. I know there's room there. So I'm not concerned with, wow, he's paying too much and Wyatt doesn't know what he's getting into for the rehab. I know he does. So I'm not concerned with any of that. But anytime someone's lending, that's something that's a concern. You want a certain LTV, loan to value ratio, and making sure that you're not lending more than perhaps you could get back, God forbid something go wrong. So that collateral valuation risk is important as well. And as I already mentioned, the paperwork, so important. It's got to be recorded properly, should be drafted by an attorney, title insurance, property casualty insurance, all of that needs to be in there, and needs to be done properly. If you're getting, for insurance, I need to be listed as the mortgagee, and you need to get copies of that before you close. All of those processes. So when people come to me and they want to co-lend with me, they know that I'm handling that whole process and I'm making sure that all of that is in place. And
Yeah,
then,
and,
of course,
and I
oh,
want
go
to
ahead.
touch on that too. So I've been doing this in Omaha now for 8 years. With the mastermind, I started in Chicago with one of the mastermind members that joined in last year with me, and now started flipping in Chicago with him as he's been educated and proved himself as a rock star. And Lauren and I just completed our first loan in Chicago, and so we have this down pat in Omaha, and now it's, hey, we went through this entire process, and guys, I can tell you that Lauren pays attention to the details. Like it was, there was a large email chain going through, adjusting the promissory note, adjusting the deed of trust, adjusting the title insurance, adjusting the closing costs. Literally every single thing was down to a minute detail. And I don't even know, I don't think you co-lent on that, Lauren. That was just all you, just making sure all of the process is down perfectly so that we can have this become something that's repeatable and for other borrowers or lenders in the future.
I
Um,
actually did co-lend on that one,
you did.
just because I wanted to, bring someone new into the fold. But yes, absolutely, there was quite the email chain. But the benefit, again, of doing this is that I'm very confident the next time we write a loan in Chicago, there won't be that, the same level of paperwork revisions that we had the first time. But
Yeah.
it's a given anytime you have a new market and a new attorney you're working with. The attorney that we've got in Nebraska has it completely down. I very rarely find any errors in what she does. And then going to closing and variability and delays. You want to make sure that whenever you're lending, that you don't have any need for that capital during that hold period. Now, Wyatt, I love his strategy. He really rarely does heavy lifts. Most of his flips take 4 weeks, sometimes a little more or less depending, but most of his flips, the project is completed and then listed. So most of his loans, for me, I was looking back, the longest loan he ever had with me was 5 months, but the vast majority of them were between 1 and 4 months. So, but that said, when I'm writing a loan, I'm not knocking on his door 2 months later being like, I need my capital back, Wyatt. And he's in the middle of his project and he's like, he can't give it to me. So it's really important that all of this is understood, that there are always delays and variability in closings before anyone gets into a deal.
Yeah, that's really good. And the reason, one thing that we also structured our loans with, we always structure our loans with my borrowers and with me as the borrower as a 12-month time period, right? And then that way, the borrower always has enough time to do what they're going to need to do. I've never had a flip go past 5 months. In fact, most are less than that, but it just gives everyone the ability to let things have cushion. And everyone needs to come into that with the expectation that, hey, this is a 12-month note, but it's likely going to be done within 6 months or 3 months within that.
So capital to get started, if you're someone who's maybe thinking about lending or you're speaking to lenders, this is something to always think about. Obviously, you can lend your own cash. That's one thing. Arbitrage credit lines, which I've absolutely done. I've particularly arbitraged my securities-based line of credit. You have your stock portfolio. You can borrow against your stock portfolio without selling any of your stock. And then you can borrow a percentage of, it's not a margin line, it's got to be a securities-based line of credit because then you can lend outside of the stock market. But I've taken full advantage of mine and I borrow against my stock portfolio and I've used it to make these loans. A HELOC, home
I
equity
love that.
line
I
of
want to
credit.
pause there. So just pause there. So Lauren, you're saying you can keep your money invested in the stock market, making a return,
Mhm.
and on top of that, you can borrow against it and then arbitrage the rate.
Right,
So
right.
borrow at like 7 or 6.5% and lend it at 10 while it's continuing to do what the stock market does.
Exactly right, right. And so my line now is at 6%, although I think when rates cut, it continues to drop. But right now it's at 6%. And then I charge Y at 10%. And so that 4% arbitrage is at scale meaningful.
Yeah, that's
So
incredible.
I'm
And
always telling people, try not to sell your assets, try not to sell your stock, borrow against it. I mean, if you look at what Elon Musk, that's what the super wealthy do with these incredible valuations in their company, they borrow against their stock. They don't sell it because if they sell it, they're going to pay an exorbitant amount of taxes. So it's not just a strategy for Elon Musk; it's a strategy for anyone with a stock portfolio. And I have some of the investors who invest with me. They pour a lot of their capital into the stock market so they can borrow against it and then lend, or borrow against it and then invest in other things. So
great.
absolutely, a very important thing to know. HELOC, home equity line of credit. I think most people probably know what that is. You can borrow against your primary residence, especially if you've owned your home for since prior to COVID. You're probably sitting on some equity. You can borrow against, again, the same way, arbitrage. I have someone who's invested with me who borrowed at 6% off her HELOC, and she lends at 12%, not with Wyatt, with a different entity, but she takes that 6% arbitrage. And for her, it ends up being about $5,000 extra a year. And she takes a nice vacation with her husband with it. So and that's equity that would have otherwise just been sitting in her home, her primary residence, doing nothing.
Yeah,
And then,
that and on that note too. So guys, actually Lauren was not my first passive investor. My first passive investor was my parents. And so my parents didn't come from any wealth, like they're not very wealthy at all, but they had me very late in life. My mom was 41 when I popped out, and they had their house paid off in cash. And I asked them, I was like, Dad, would you take a home equity line of credit on your home to let me do this real estate thing? And he said no. And 9 months later, after I kept going to real estate events, I kept reading real estate books. This was back in 2018. He finally said, "Okay, I'll try one." And so that was how this whole thing started, was from no one had any money, but my dad had equity. And so it's the equity that was sitting there that was dead was then put to use and started this whole thing. And now I still continue to use that home equity line of credit. And in Nebraska, our property taxes are rather high, and so I pay off my dad's property taxes every year from this arbitrage on the line of credit.
yeah, it's all about understanding what you have and then leveraging it. Exactly. And then self-directed IRA and 401k. A lot of people don't even know you can do this, but you can direct your IRA or 401k outside of the stock market into what's called a self-directed, but essentially into a custodian that allows you to issue loans or whatever it is that you want to do. So self-directing your retirement account, especially if it's just kind of sitting there, is a great solution for a lot of people where that is where their capital is sitting.
That's good. And I've had some people come to me, a couple of the mastermind members even, that are veterans, and so they have a TSP. Lauren, do you have any experience with a TSP at
I don't.
all? Okay. We found that, yeah, we found that at first they can be self-directed, but you have to be 55 to self-direct it. So unfortunately, that's a bummer for if you're under that. But you can take a marginal loan of 50,000 against whatever your TSP is. So there is some value there that can be used.
Great. Well, I mean that's everything that I had. This is my contact information. Feel free to set up time with me if you want to learn more. I do a lot of educating on my social media, so feel free to follow me on Instagram, LinkedIn. There's my email address. I'm happy to talk anytime if you'd like to learn more about what I do. I speak quite a bit on social media about it as well.
Yeah, guys, first off, thank you, Lauren, for coming here.
Yeah,
Guys, everybody give her a round of applause. She brings the heat
absolutely.
as always. And guys, I'm telling you, follow Lauren on the socials. She spends a lot of time on them. She's very educated. She's helped a lot of people make a lot of money through real estate investing, passively, actively, all of the things. And so, guys, I promise you, she is worth a follow. You'll build a lot of trust, and she will do a free meeting with you. She is a wealth of knowledge. I would highly take her up on that. She is very worth your time. Okay. The fact that she'll still do free meetings is pretty cool. So, yeah, Lauren, thank you again for being here. Thank you for taking your
Yeah.
time to be here in front of everyone and sharing the value that you do. We'll open it up now for questions. So, if anybody has any questions, this is a great opportunity to connect with Lauren now. If you have any questions at all about passively investing or really anything through here. So, feel free to either type it in the chat or you can unmute and we'll open it up for Q&A.
Question.
Yes, Erica.
What's the last thing you said? The TSA, the TSP, what is that?
Oh, a TSP. I actually don't know what it stands for, but a TSP is a military's retirement, kind of like a pension, kind of like an IRA. And so if you're in the military, if you're a veteran, you can contribute to your TSP each year, and and it grows. I'll just say that. And you can leverage against it. Thrift saving plan is what it says in the comments.
I think.
All right, Darren. Yeah.
Hello, Lauren. Going back to the IRA 401k self-directed piece, do you actually have to take the money out of those accounts, or are you just basically borrowing against those? Is that how that works?
The money would have to come out. So what happens is, let's say you have $100,000 in a 401k that's invested in the stock market. You have to roll it into what's called a 401k, an IRA custodian. So the IRS approved company. For example, I use a company called Equity Trust, but there's a number of companies out there. And then at that point, they will deploy, if you give them the note, hey, I want to lend $100,000 to this deal. You give them the paperwork that says that, and they will deploy it on your behalf. If you ever touch that money, it's going to get taxed and penalized. So you yourself, it's never going to come into your bank account, for example, but it will go in and out of the IRA custodian, and that keeps it completely protected from penalty or taxes.
Yeah.
Okay,
And I
thank
will
you.
say, sorry, real quick. Lauren and I are both just people. Okay. So talk to your own tax attorney, talk to your own CPA. Lauren has a lot of experience in this, but obviously do your own research before doing anything. Um,
Thank you, Wyatt. Yes.
yeah. Darren, I'm sorry. We're about to say something else?
No, I was just thanking Lauren for answering my question.
Awesome. 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 Looks like in the comments, it looks like the TSP is the same as a 401k for federal employees, is what was said. All right. Any other questions, guys?
I've got one.
All right.
With co-lending, does a new co-lender need to have a track record to be able to co-lend with you?
No, no. There's a lot of the people who co-lend have been investing in other things or have capital sitting in a high yield savings that they maybe just want to try to get a better yield on. So no, no track record is needed there.
And do you control like the overall account, or does it just go into one big account and then that goes to the what they're
Oh,
lending toward?
that's a great question. No, I don't touch anyone else's money. All of it goes directly into escrow. So in the example I gave, I wired my 140 into escrow. They each wired their 80, 50 into escrow. And I'm so glad you asked this. The distributions are paid each month directly to each of our bank accounts. Nothing flows through me. I don't want that the tax reliability around that. So yeah, I'm so glad you asked that. It really goes straight to escrow. And that's another thing that actually I didn't mention here. Anytime you're lending on a property, your cash capital should be going to escrow. You should never be wiring directly to the borrower. So there has never been a time where I've wired Wyatt Simon a dime ever. It all goes through escrow. That the title attorney handles the close. So yeah, that's a very important piece. I'm glad you brought up because if anyone's ever saying, you're gonna lend on a fix and flip, just wire it to me. Something's wrong.
Yeah.
Something's wrong.
Yeah, that's a great point.
Yeah.
And in the same fashion, we then pay out, we set up direct ACH payments directly to all of the lenders' accounts every single month on the first, and that's just automatic, right? So that goes automatic. I can tell you when I first started this, I was like, man, I have to wire every single month. And then we figured out, okay, we can direct ACH, it's going automatically set up. And then the funds don't come back to me either when we close. The funds go to the title company. The title company pays off any liens on the property, which are the borrower's notes. And then the remaining profit goes to my company at the end. Yep. But that's a great question, Kyle. Glad you asked that.
It's also, by the way, they're paying back the lien, which is our lien, plus any due interest. So frequently we're closing in the middle of the month. We just closed one last week or the week before. It closed February 20th, so I got my capital back plus 20 days of interest.
Yep. Awesome. Great question, Kyle.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right. Looks like we do have a question in the chat. Dale says, can you speak more on your underwriting process?
Yes, and that would probably be its own webinar, but I'm happy to speak at it. I mean, on a very high level, I do things manually. I know there's a lot of software out there that helps you, but I like to look at every neighborhood and every property. So I will go and I will look at the property, and then I will look at the sales that have happened within a half a mile to 1 mile radius, the sales that have happened in the past 6 months. And I want to see, has anything been renovated in the area? If so, what did it sell for? What are the fixer-uppers selling for in the area? So I'm really looking at that, and I want to find properties that are kind of comparable. I'm not comparing a 1,200 square foot property to a 5,000 square foot property. I'm looking at other 1,200 square foot properties that have sold in the area, depending on, again, are they fixers? Are they flips? What's the condition of the properties, and then what do I think he could sell it for at the end of it? Because I want to make sure if he's not overpaying is my biggest concern. I've never been in an instance where Wyatt sent me something and I thought he was overpaying. If anything, it's been the opposite. I'm like, how the hell did he get this under contract for so little? But I always want to check that, and I will continue to. So that's the process. Just looking in the area and seeing, is it feasible? He's telling me his after repair value is $250,000. Has anything in the area ever sold for $250,000? And I want to make sure that that's the case.
That's great. And I think maybe other thing to mention on that is sometimes I am buying these to flip, and other times I'm buying these to renovate and rent and refinance. And so I think that exit strategy also comes into play. I do own 60, 70 houses at this point. And so it's easier to have something as a rental appraised than it is for it to flip as an exit. And so I think that's something that's also factored in there.
Mm-hmm.
Looks like another question in the comments here. Hi, Lauren and Wyatt. Thanks for this session. I joined a bit late. Can you repeat to me how we can participate in lending with your projects? Or do we just reach out to you and contact and indicate our interest and go from there?
You're welcome to reach out to me at anytime. That's my contact information there. Wyatt's always an open source as well. So feel free to reach out to either or both of us.
Yep. We both offer opportunities, guys. If you want it like done for you and you want to co-lend, I think Lauren has so many opportunities in so many different fashions. And so, yeah, I would say reach out to both and go from there for what you would like. Yeah. Awesome. All right, guys. Well, thanks again, Lauren, for being here. You're a wealth of knowledge. Yeah, Rob says that was great. Thanks for the info. I agree. So everybody, thanks for being here. I appreciate you all taking a time out of your day. And Lauren, thanks for delivering for that. So with that, guys, have a wonderful rest of your week, and we will see you in the next.
Thank you, Lauren. Thank you, Wyatt. Have a
Thanks.
great day.
Thanks, Howard.